Okay, so one thing I did notice on your bio is that you grew up in the East End of Houston.
I did.
So the interesting thing is that is exactly where I live now by navigation. And I don't know if you've been out there recently, but they have a golf course now out there.
No, I did not know that.
It is when I moved there 15 years ago, there were warehouses. Um, Now they've torn down everything. They're building all these little fancy 3-story New York style houses, and they have a golf course. And so I thought I would let you know that East End is not what it used to be.
Well, I went to Park Place Elementary, Deedy Junior High, and Milby
Mhm.
High School.
Okay. Yes, I know exactly Milby. One of our I went to Willowridge High School, and so they were definitely one of our enemies in basketball. And so, but you played basketball too.
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't. Oh, okay, okay. I thought you were in sports as well when I was reading your bio about the schools you went to. But no, no, no sport.
All I did was mention that Milby came in this. We lost to Pampa for the state championship
Okay.
my
Yes,
sophomore year.
yes.
I went to the game, but not on the floor. I wasn't on the
No.
field.
They were a tough team because they were one of our toughest teams I remember growing up as well when we would play them in basketball and football and stuff like that. Wonderful. Okay. So I have a quick question. What is a quiz master? It says you did that when you were at law school. I had
Yeah,
no.
Quizmaster is uh, at least at that time. We're talking 50 something years ago, 60 years ago. Uh, the quiz masters were there were two type of quiz masters. There were quiz masters that were you were sort it's a comparable to a graduate assistant in
Okay.
graduate school,
Okay.
and uh, and some amount of quiz masters were actually on payroll. I remember that I worked in the placement office and received $1.10 an hour, which was minimum wage back then.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
and others of us who were peer quiz masters, which I was at as well, would assist uh, professors in getting their syllabi done, and all the rest of those things,
Yes.
and monitoring tests and that type of thing.
$1.10. That is interesting. Okay, I definitely have to include that in my biography of you. Okay, so
Well, let me ask you, what is your history?
I'm sorry.
What is your history?
What is my mother is an immigrant from Vietnam. I'm a Vietnam War baby, so she met my father in the Vietnam War, and then she migrated here, and so you can imagine it was a they went through a lot in the war, so it was education, 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 education. We had two choices growing up, me and my sister. You could either be a doctor or a lawyer, and that was it. And so it was like so put in my brain that I didn't even know I had another option. So then yeah, I was like, I didn't know. So I went to Texas A&M University for undergrad and then went straight from there to South Texas College of Law in
Well,
Houston.
South Texas at that time had a relationship with A&M, did they not?
Absolutely. That's why I went. And now it never actually came to fruition, but they were supposed to become the Texas A&M Law School.
That's what I'd
But
understood.
it never happened. And so they were really trying to filter us there. And so I went there. I said, fine. Although it was like 3 times more expensive than U of H,
Hmm.
because it was going to be affiliated with A&M. So I said, oh, well, I'm going there. And then graduated from there. Yes.
Well, I don't want to hurt your feelings about expensive, but they doubled the tuition at law school when I started law school. It was the same tuition as undergraduate school
Mhm.
at the University of Texas. So the summer that I started, they doubled it from $50 a semester, not a semester hour, $50 a semester,
Semester.
to $100 a semester.
Wow.
And there were some of my classmates who couldn't afford the extra $50 and had to go out and work some more before they could come back and graduate.
That is amazing. From $50 to thousands. I mean, I can't tell you how long it took me to pay off all my student loans for law school.
Well, my son went to St. Mary's,
Okay. Yes. Yes.
even though and 10 years ago it was $1,000 a semester. I don't know what it is today.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can imagine. I can't imagine now. I mean, I bet it's probably double since I've been in law school.
Mm.
I hopefully still look fabulously young, but I came out of law school in 2001. So
Okay.
yeah. So hopefully, so I've been out for some years now. I'm like, man, now that I'm trying to count that, that's like 20 some years that I've been out.
Yeah.
Whoa, okay.
But
That that reminds me of your quote that you have in your bio from John Nathan's book saying, "Hey, I can't wait till the next day. I'm looking better every day." I need to start thinking like that.
there you
20,
go.
looking better every day. I'm not getting older. I'm looking better every day.
I promise you, your 50s and your 60s are your most enjoyable decades. So
Was really okay, great. So thinking of your trial experience, I read that you did a 2-month trial.
I did. Matter of fact, I've had a couple of 2-month trials.
Wha- how does I mean how do you keep the endurance for that? I can't make it through a
It's
3-day jury trial.
you get up and you say you get up. You go back to your hotel, the one I did in El Paso, or to your home, the one I did here, and you don't collapse in front of the TV because if you do, you lose your edge. So you have to get up and go walk or run, which and
Okay.
you have to focus on what's going to happen to you the next day. So
What was
uh,
that? Was it a family law trial or was it a
the one in El Paso was a personal injury case,
okay?
and the one in here in Hidalgo County was family law. It was a custody issue with a contort, us playing by the other side, and an attorney from Houston, and we had a visiting judge. Matter of fact, in both cases, we had visiting judges because that meant it got to start the trial at 9 o'clock every day and finish at 5 o'clock every day. Because otherwise, since your courts have general business to take care of, when you have a jury trial, you can have a 2 week trial that only has 3 actual days of trial. The rest of it's waiting for the dockets to be called. But
Yes.
these were both uh, all day, every day. The only difference is that the one in El Paso, the judge knocked it off at noon on Friday every week so that the jury could have a longer weekend and
Good
the
grief.
attorneys could travel.
Yeah,
So,
how do you keep a jury engaged for that many days? I mean, I can't imagine they caught everything or even paid attention. 2 months is a long
long way.
time.
I had a jury trial long ago in 408 that actually up in Edinburgh, that the judge impaneled the jury in March. And then he said, okay, I know some of y'all are seasonal workers and you need to go up north. So we'll start this up in September. So after having made all your opening arguments in the jury then got 6 months to forget everything. Then we came back in September and started the trial.
Wow, that is interesting. So the trial you had, the custody trial was against a Houston attorney.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you all agree on the visiting judge in that situation? Is that how that works? Or you just have to take
It's
whatever the court gives you?
uh, I, the standard procedure is that the administrative judge of your administrative district appoints uh, appoints the judge, the visiting judge.
Mm-hmm.
You have you have certain vetoes you can use, and
Oh,
but not that many, and not a smart thing to do
mhm.
because it's sort of like recusal. If you're going to try to recuse a judge, you better make sure you're successful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They won't forget.
No, they won't.
Definitely. They won't forget. Wow, I've never thought about that using a different judge. We are just sitting there waiting for the general docket to be done. So we end up starting our jury trials here in Harris County, like in the afternoon. You go 4 or 5 hours, you come back the next day. So, that's an interesting thought about a visiting judge so that you're kind of not, you sort of have a more of a flow and that judge isn't distracted with other business.
Right. What he's doing, the only thing he's doing is your case.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Words of wisdom here, words of wisdom. So the board certification was you took it in 1975, I think.
That was the first year they had board
That was the
certification.
first year. Okay. How was that?
It was considered to be a pilot program at that time.
Okay.
And the three areas they allowed certification in were labor law,
Mhm.
criminal law, and family law. And of the three, the ones that fit what I did was family law because at that time I was practicing in Pasadena.
Okay.
And when you have a bedroom community, you get a lot of divorces.
Absolutely, yes. And so
And
was
my
the test hours long? I mean, I know now it takes us hours. I mean, I wonder how it was then.
hours to try or to,
Hours for us to take the test. Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry, the test.
yeah, take the test.
My recollection, and believe me, this is an old recollection, is it was an all-day affair. That
Okay.
there were, uh, it wasn't like the later test in civil trial and real estate. I don't remember any multiple choice. There may have been, but I don't remember them. But I do remember the essay questions. And my recollection is that the essay questions were primarily in the afternoon. That the questions requiring shorter answers were in the morning. Now that's what I remember. But again,
Mhm.
that's an old memory that might be wrong.
So who came up with the idea of a pilot program? And they just, I guess, approach you and say,
No, it was open to anyone in the state, but it was still considered a pilot program. We were not guaranteed that if we got certified, we'd remain certified because the program may not have stayed into effect. Instead,
really?
it not only stayed into effect, you can see how it's grown over the last 50 years.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I had a question for you. I don't know if your list gives you all the attorneys who were certified in 1975, but one of them was Jimmy Stewart, who was a fine family lawyer from San Antonio. And I can remember Jimmy giving lectures at different state bar seminars, and he always referred to the original 99 of the family law certifications in 1975. I
Mhm.
noticed some of the material you gave me, you cite 109, and I was wondering where that 10-person difference came from.
Yeah, so I will find that out because we put in a lot of research to try to even locate and figure out the original members and then just pulled some names. So no, I'll find out because you believe there's 99, but we have 109 in our
Yeah,
notes, I guess.
I don't believe. I'm just saying that's the figure Jimmy gave, and he was such an active family lawyer in all of the seminars and all of the other
Yes.
issues that I had always, for the last 50 years, I always thought there were 99, and that's why the 109 is sitting going, I
Huh.
wonder what
Yeah,
that
I'm
means.
gonna check that out. Yeah. I'll ask our chair because they compiled the information and they gave us the idea. And then we kind of just took it and ran with it and said, okay, we're gonna create these series of essays and we're gonna call it the originals.
Okay. Uh, Gee, I don't know. Everything's changed. You know that.
Oh yeah.
Uh, do not know. I've had no reason to see what the present requirements to become board certified are.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
do recall this though, and I've often thought that it couldn't be the same. That in order to qualify to apply for board certification in family law in 1975, you had to have a certain number of trials, bench trials, a certain number, I think it was two, of jury trials,
Hmm.
and a certain number of appellate cases, which I think is one. And
Okay.
obviously, it stopped. I'm sitting there thinking that can't be the same anymore because number one, nobody tries cases anymore.
Yeah, it's very
You,
hard.
you work them up for trial. You get all your discovery out. You get all your disclosures done. You get all your experts ready if there is one, and then you go settle the case with mediation. And if you don't settle the case with mediation, the judge sends you back to mediation. So where so I'm sure there are stellar family
Well, now
lawyers
I know there's still
who've
two
never tried
trials.
a jury case.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Now I know because you're right. We're supposed to still have two jury trials, but I can't remember all the other requirements. I know they added mediations. You had to mediate, I want to say 50 family law cases.
Okay. I'm certain that you don't have any appellate requirement anymore because, hey, that's
Mhm.
a whole different certification. And I'm used to seeing lawyers I don't know sitting in the back of the room of hearings, and they're the appellate lawyers who are already on board to appeal the
Yes.
case for you. So I don't know what the requirements are at that point.
Yes, yes, that is true. And I know that because you didn't have a mediation requirement. I mean, mediation wasn't
There
even
was, there was no mediation at that time.
back then.
Uh,
Okay.
Okay, the early mediation, when it finally started becoming into vogue, was generally a retired judge. It
Mhm.
wasn't someone who perhaps taken courses in mediation. And I believe one of the earliest places was Pepperdine University out in California at a
Mhm.
mediation section. Some of our first retired judges who were mediators had gone to that Pepperdine course.
Right, right. Okay,
Probably,
okay. California.
okay, yeah,
California of all places.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm thinking they added, and then I think it became a big hoopla at one point that a lot of the ad litems or amicus attorneys, they weren't letting their jury trials qualify. And I think they changed that. They were saying you were just an extension of the court. So if you did a jury trial, it didn't qualify. And I remember that became a big debate at one point some years ago.
yeah. Uh,
Okay.
the seven, you sent me a list of seven folks from the 1975 test. Are those the seven remaining or just seven that you've located?
Those are the seven that we've been able to locate. And well, they located more, but some were older and sort of out of the practice. And so I don't know exactly how they came down to just that number. But there were actually more people that ended up getting added. So that was the first list.
Yeah.
I think we're up to 12.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. So I will
Now,
send that final list of because we did add more.
and I will tell you that the youngest person you're going to find will be 79 or thereabouts.
Okay.
The
Now, do you
reason
recognize some of the people on the list?
I did,
You do?
particularly Al Green, sure. Uh,
Yes. Okay.
uh, One of the other requirements may still be the same. When they first announced in the board journal that they were working on this specialization project,
Hmm.
and they gave some of the preliminary requirements, I was licensed, I believe, 3.5 years at that time. And one of the requirements was you had to be licensed at least 5 years in order
Okay.
to seek certification. And I can remember driving to Austin and meeting with the board to argue with them that the requirement should be experience, should be the number of cases you had, and not how long since you've been licensed.
Hmm.
By the time they actually came out with the pilot program in '75, since I'd been practicing 5.5 years at that point, it didn't matter to me. But I've always wondered why they pulled 5 years out as an arbitrary number.
As an arbitrary number. That's so true. And then you drove up there and argued with them about it.
Well, I didn't argue. I made a presentation. Yeah,
Your legal presentation about it.
right. Stating that you could be uh, smaller county practitioner
Hmm.
and have far fewer cases tried in a 5 year period than someone in a bedroom community like Pasadena at that time might have
Right.
3.5 or 4 years. But like I said, that was in '73 or '74, and
Mhm.
since the first tests were in '75, by that time I'd been licensed 5.5 years and didn't care.
Didn't care. Yeah. So have you ever been involved after the test? Have you ever graded any test or been on the grading committee or submitted
I have
any?
not.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um, I also noticed that you are a fellow for the state bar. Is that
No,
right?
no, that was
No.
the fellow for the College of the State Bar.
For the College of the State Bar. Okay. Okay.
I
Te-
believe it's 20 years when you've qualified for the College of the State Bar of Texas, and I think it's 20 years consistently. Then they promote you to being a fellow.
to being a fellow. Okay. So, with all of your experience and your knowledge and your journey, what are some of the changes that you've seen that are either you think are good or bad, just with our bar, with the State Bar of Texas, or with the board certification process?
Well,
In,
I've always noticed that the Texas State Bar, at least to the extent that I talk to lawyers from other states, is head and shoulders above any of the bar associations as far as having its members actually care, actually give back to the profession. And that's something I've always been very proud of, is the way that the attorneys in this state contribute. So
Contribute, definitely.
I guess that's one observation.
Yeah.
Of course, the largest change has been the fact of oh golly, the gender changes in
Mm-hmm.
in the profession. Uh,
Absolutely.
I'm thinking that when I started practicing in Houston, the judge Ruby Sonbach, I don't know if that name would need anything to you. She was a family law judge, and I believe the only female judge in Harris County, but I'm not sure. And she was later appointed to and served on the Texas Supreme Court. And she was the first lady justice, I believe. I may be, again, this is
Yeah,
just my memory. There's nothing I've researched, so I may be totally wrong. You know how
I understand.
you get legend, you get urban legends in your profession, and you don't know if they're right or not.
True. That's true. That's true. Wow.
I do know that the number of graduates from our law schools in Texas now are pretty much equal, male and female, or
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
possibly even slanted to where there's more ladies.
For ladies. Absolutely. Yes. What advice would you give to the younger board certified attorneys? Anything that you know now that you just wish you would have known back then?
It may sound silly, but read,
Mm,
and don't just arbitrarily read. I have always been badly impressed by the number of younger lawyers who have never sat down and read the rules of civil procedure. They know this rule, they know that rule, but they don't know the rules ahead of them or behind them.
hmm
Uh, the other thing is find someone who still has the black statutes with their annotations, because annotations to me are a quicker way to get into an area than most anything you can get off your computer.
hmm
I mean,
Absolutely.
obviously, those of us who are raised on hard copy books for our cases
Right.
or statutes uh, don't quite don't quite accept the computer generated information as being the be all and end all.
Right, absolutely. It's interesting when when I was in law school, I actually started working for a personal injury attorney. And he was an older gentleman. He was 83 when I started working for him. His name was Victor Branch. And he still would speak in the recorder and I'd have the earphones on to dictate for him. But he was just, he had so much experience. He was older. So I was like, I'm working for him. He couldn't turn on the computer or anything. So I did everything. And in the office, there were all still the law books. And so
Right.
I would have to shepherdize by hand. I would pull each book out and read all of the cases and stuff. And now I'm in an executive suite. There are no law books. Everything's on the computer. And so it's still difficult for me. I actually hire law students to research because I still can't quite use keywords
Right.
on the Westlaw. I mean, I was used to the book, and you had the book with all the keywords, and you would find each book that coordinated, and you'd pull the book out and you read it. So it was very, very different. But he did personal injury, and so I worked with him for years until I moved over into family law. Hmm
Well, I had something to show you that you may not have seen before. Yeah, I graduated UT Law in August of '69.
Okay.
Okay. First book I purchased was this one. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yes. Uh-huh.
Do you
It,
recognize what it is?
oh no, I do not. Minimum fee schedule of the State Bar of Texas.
Yes. And this was published in April of '68, so it was in effect. Uh, and this page is divorce. And for representing the plaintiff or the defendant, remember we weren't petitioners and respondents, and we were plaintiffs and defendants.
I
And
didn't know that.
now that was one of the changes in the family code, is that they thought we could take some of the sting out of adversary proceedings by by changing the plaintiff, who was the person who filed the divorce, to a petitioner, and changing the defendant to a respondent. So this is still under the old nomenclature. But for representing the plaintiff and the defendant in uncontested proceeding in which the custody of minors is involved, the minimum fee schedule was $350. One in which minors is involved and citations by publication was 400. For representing the plaintiff or defendant in an uncontested proceeding in which no minor children involved, the minimum was $250. And for representing the plaintiff or the defendant in an uncontested proceeding in which no minors or children involved, but again, by publication, that's $300. Then there was an additional amount for a property settlement. You were to charge 10% of the first $5,000. That would be $500. And
Wow.
for the net value of the property in excess of $5,000, minimum was 5%. So this was in theory
Wow.
what was supposed to be charged by, of course, as most attorneys would tell their clients, well, that's the minimum fee schedule. I'm not a minimum attorney, but I don't know if I don't know if they teach any of the history of the profession, but
No.
when I and the other folks who were licensed in 1975, when we started practicing law, you were not allowed to advertise in any way, shape, manner, or form.
Wow. Okay.
I, I'm assuming
Different now.
since you graduated more than 20 years ago, at least you know what a phone directory is. Uh,
Yes.
and there was no such things as bold caps, ads,
Hmm.
or anything else in the phone directory, and certainly nobody who advertised on the back page.
Uh-huh.
One of the exceptions was if you were board certified. If you
Okay.
were certified, you got two listings. You got one other under attorneys general, and
Hmm.
one at the end of that was a listing for board certification. And so you would get listed twice, once as being a lawyer and again as being board certified in family law. And,
Wow.
and that was a big deal.
That
Uh,
is.
a few years after that, or maybe even while that was being worked out by the board, sometime around 73 or 74, I'm thinking, so it may not have been that applicable. The federal Supreme Court uh, tried a case or ruled in a case. My memory, it was the Board of Legal Examiners of New Mexico versus Bates and Osteen. I know it as a Bates and Osteen case.
Mhm.
That's one in which they said it's a violation of the First Amendment to not allow attorneys to advertise.
Really? Okay.
I mean, up until that time, uh, you could be grievanced for having a neon sign on your office.
Mm. Yeah. Well,
Mm.
my first mentor, like I said, he was 84. He did not believe in advertising. So when I went, I guess I just carried that thought process with me when I went on my own. I mean, I didn't get a website till maybe 8 years ago because
Mhm.
I believed that you didn't advertise. He said, that's just not what we do. And I thought, oh, okay. So he taught me a lot of the, original ways of doing things. And
That's how we were originally taught. We
yeah, yeah.
just
He
did
said,
not advertise.
hmm
Then, when after Bates and Osteen, you started having advertisements just everywhere. The
everywhere.
particular
Mhm.
place was the TV guide that came with your Sunday newspaper. So, I mean, there were ads upon ads upon ads that were in there, and a whole lot of them were for divorces. It was sort of a race to the bottom. Who could
Mhm.
charge the least for a divorce? And
Raised in
I
Boston.
remember, I cannot remember the gentleman's name, but I was tickled to death at a seminar back in the late 70s, and the fellow who was speaking, he said, I get phone calls and people say, how much do you charge for a divorce? And he
Mhm.
says, I quote them $300, $500, whatever it was he quotes them. And they said, well, Lawyer Brown advertises $75. He said, well, yes, but my divorces are good in all 50 states. So,
That's- And so when they're saying 350 or 400 or 5%, that's just a one-time fee. That's not even the hourly.
uh, I can remember, again, can't remember his name, an attorney friend of mine, but I asked, how can you afford to do a flat fee? And his
Hmm.
answer was, I tell them that flat fee includes two phone calls.
Okay.
And I charge him $25 a piece for every other phone call. Said you'd be amazed how many people make 2 phone calls.
Two phone calls and we get it and they get it done in two,
They get
probably.
it done at 2. That's right.
Amazing. How do you think the advertisement that case though changed the quality of our profession? I mean, it may have
I think it's almost made us a joke in some quarters.
joke. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. I can remember growing up and I mean, no one forgets the Texas Hammer. If I can quote any commercial from a lawyer, I can
Yeah,
quote that one. Everyone,
right.
everyone can quote his.
Well, when you drive from here to Brownsville, there's uh, a huge billboard, and I don't remember the firm it's for, but it says, "See lawyer so and so. He has a pair," and then there's an asterisk. And if you look close before you zip by, it says of offices. But,
Oh my gosh. That's interesting.
yeah.
Um,
So
any
it's not just a joke. It's also bad taste.
Yeah. Oh, very. Yes, yes. So what are some of the things you're working on now that you think are just interesting? Any cases or anything you're working on now?
Uh, oh gosh, so your cases are always interesting. If not interesting to you, you shouldn't be having
Oh
them.
yeah, absolutely.
The purpose of representing folks is to help them and let you worry about something that's very disruptive in their life instead of them.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they don't worry, but and you've got to realize that your clients aren't familiar with the process. Even saying meet me at the courthouse, you've got to do
Right.
more than that. You've got to tell them, look, you're gonna like our courthouse. We have a new one under construction, so you tell them, look, you got to park far away, give yourself
Hmm.
plenty of time, walk up there. You have to go through a metal detector, then come
Yeah.
up to the second floor, the third floor, I mean, it just a little bit of time helps people go through a lot of what's a catastrophe in their life.
Oh
We just
yeah, that little extra care. Yeah.
I will
So
tell you one observation I've made.
mhm.
Every time I go to court for a docket call, the dockets are answered either by attorneys, ladies and gentlemen who are in their 60s, 70s, or perhaps even older, or by youngsters straight out of law school. There's no in between middle aged lawyers there.
Yeah.
They're, they're, they're too busy managing the cases to waste their time at the courthouse. So I
Hmm.
don't know where that future is going to take us. And
Yeah.
having been through the 2 years we lost of our lives to the pandemic, uh, and some of the judges still allowing Zoom and some not allowing Zoom.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't know where the future is as far as trials.
Yeah.
I just know that Texas gets more and more people. I think we're up to 30 million population now.
Mm.
And when you have 30 million people living together, even in as big a state as Texas, you're going to have friction. And you need the opposite of what we're having, which is cases taking longer and longer because of the spillover still from the pandemic.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what do you think about this artificial intelligence? I think that's going to change a lot of what we do. I don't know, maybe people will start representing themselves more. I have no idea, but I just don't see it
Uh,
going in a positive direction.
you see more stuff printed off the internet with or without artificial intelligence. And
Hmm.
folks have been wanting to represent themselves for years to save a couple of bucks. To me, it's sort of like doing your own root canal. It's not really the smartest thing to do. Uh, but I tried, I forget who it was. Uh, I can't think of the preeminent AI source right now. What is it, chatbot or something
Yeah,
like
chat AI. There's more and
that?
more coming out.
Anyway, uh, I looked up myself. I used Chat AI and looked up myself, and it pulled uh, information from my website, information from other places, and half of it I recognized, and half was wrong. It had,
Really?
yeah, it said that John King is an attorney in McAllen, Texas. That's correct. He's a graduate of University of Houston School of Law, which is incorrect.
Okay.
Uh,
Mhm.
and I think it got my undergraduate school wrong too. Uh, and Uh, I don't know. There's not but one other John King lawyer in Texas that I'm aware of, and I don't know if I pulled some stuff from him by mistake or if it just made it up. But it did
Mm.
it printed a bio of some
Wow.
fellow who resembled me but wasn't.
It's a scary time, how that is going to affect our profession. You know, uh, it'll be interesting to see where that takes us. Definitely interesting.
Well, to be interesting where it takes our civilization, not just our
Yeah. Hmm. I mean, they say we're entering into the hive mind time. It's supposed to bring us together, but I don't think so. I think it'll point out more differences.
oh golly, people are still people. Uh, I,
Hmm.
I think the biggest advantage we have is that we can work together. And if you take something like AI, it's going to wind up with not without our working together, but being, I think it'll make us a little bit more solitary, punching away on a computer instead of, what I miss the most is just sitting around talking about things with people.
Yes. Hmm. Yeah. I mean, and we used to go to the courthouse and work our deals out in the hallway, but when COVID hit, that changed everything. I don't think we talk as much anymore. We just email. It's different.
It's like the youngsters who were in college and all of a sudden they were like postage stamps on the wall. They were getting the same lectures from their professors, but
Mhm.
they didn't have any bull sessions over coffee or other liquid refreshment to talk about things, nobody to bounce ideas off of. Uh, to me, that's one of the advantages of being a student is
Mhm.
having input from your fellow students, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent.
Right.
And if you don't get that input, the same thing as you said with our colleagues in the profession, uh, it makes you just want to pick up the phone and dial someone and say, "Hey, let's talk."
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So over time, have you focused more on like mediation and settling your cases? Has it just kind of naturally transformed?
It's not necessarily that I've done that. That's what's happened to the practice of law. Um,
Hmm.
uh, if you got a halfway good mediator and you're halfway up on your case, you can settle any case. The important thing is though that your client trusts you and trusts your advice. If they don't trust you, or they think you're a nice person, but they don't think your advice is good, in which case I don't know why you're their lawyer, but it can still happen.
Mhm.
They're not going to settle the case.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other thing is that I've observed over the years that family law cases have their own rhythm. You'll
Mm.
start off a family law case, the parties are recently separated. They're both grieving over the fact that something they plan on lasting a lifetime has exploded on them. That for whatever reason, it used to be before the present family code, and it's still in the present family code, but seldom used. That in order to get a divorce, there had to be a bad person and a good person. Two good people couldn't divorce each other. Two bad people couldn't divorce each other. As you mentioned, I think in Al Green's note, we had if you had one adulterer and the other one went out and committed adultery, you couldn't divorce each other. Uh,
Wow.
we also had something called condemnation. That if you forgave the other person, if you condoned what they had done, you couldn't then use that as a basis for divorce at a later time.
Wow.
So
Uh-huh.
so and but so basically in the 40s and the 50s and the early 60s, if folks wanted to get what we now call a no-fault divorce, they'd have to like draw straws. Are you going to be the bad person, or am I going to be the bad person?
Really?
And then whoever won with the long straw would file the petition. The other party would file a waiver, and they'd get divorced. But
Wow.
the person signing the waiver was agreeing that they'd been a bad person. And,
Wow. Interesting.
yeah.
Well, now it doesn't even matter. People want to bring up stuff that happened 5, 10 years ago. They cheated on me 10 years ago. And we're like, are we still talking about that? Y'all stayed together 10 years after.
So and then answers yes, but that was so my children would graduate high school, and now they're 18, and by God, I want this
Mhm.
divorce.
Right. Yeah. Which we see a lot. We see
Yeah.
a lot. Everyone's staying together until the kids graduate.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Well, I want to leave with one last question. Why? So, younger attorneys may not believe that becoming board certified is as important. Like we've talked about, they advertise now. They can make a lot of money. They can pull in clients. And so the worry is that the honor of being board certified is not as important to the younger generation. What would you say to them to encourage them to say it is still important? Like it does still set us apart. Being board certified still does set us apart in a way, in an honorable way.
Yeah. I think it's because, just like I was talking about, marriages has up and downs, but
Mhm.
so does your profession. And there'll be times when you're thinking, man, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe I want to go be an archaeologist. And then you'll spend a little time coming back. I mean, I've taken a few hiatuses. I still practice, but not as heavily. I took a couple of years and went to MBA school, got an MBA. I took another couple of years and went to a graduate school and got a Master of Liberal Studies. So I've done these things, and if nothing else, the recertification requirements yank you back to earth, and you go, oh my gosh, I can't do more than 50 hours in a year, and I'm 70 hours short. So uh, it the again, it's sort of like you can get your hours as long as you dedicate yourself. The state bar has wonderful video seminars to take back up. Again, you miss the camaraderie of being at the seminar, seeing people that you haven't seen because they moved
Mhm.
away, or and so I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think that necessarily you have to be board certified to be a crackerjack family lawyer. If you are a crackerjack family lawyer, why not get board certified? Why not hold yourself up to the standard of the folks who come before you and that'll come after you?
Absolutely.
Maybe why not's not a good answer, but I think it is.
It is, absolutely. Thank you. It's your answer, and so it's good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. King. If there's anything else you want to share or anything like that, feel free to email me, reach out to me. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Well, if you do find out an answer to that 99 versus 109, I'd be interested in hearing.
I'm absolutely going to find out. And I'm going to wonder if they can give me the list. I'm going to ask our chair.
Okay. Well, you have
Okay.
a fine day and a fine week.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much.